to the vet center, and I'll just go in and, shoot the breeze and just talk about basically exactly what I shared with you guys over the last two videos with Chance and all that, and see what they say. Um, but it got me thinking about what it's like when we're going through issues or difficulties in our lives. And I think that some people, and I'll talk about myself, when you're dealing with an issue that you don't have the resources or the ability to address it and overcome, it's like it's like being trapped under ice. I think of like a pond frozen over, and maybe like you have fallen through the ice, and now you've moved over to a point where you don't know where that hole is to get back out, and you're just sitting there like, okay, I'll die under here eventually. And so, maybe at first you can have your wits about you, but as that fight or flight instinct starts to come in, I mean, you just stop thinking straight. And you might eventually get to the point where you're like, beating against the bottom of the ice and punching the bottom of the ice, but you don't have any traction. You just as hard as you punch up and you hit it, you push yourself back down because you're floating in the water. You have no traction. You have no foundation or structure to what it is you're doing. You're kind of just you're moving, but there's no motion. There's no movement, like whatever. And then I think it's funny because it's like, oh, so as what I see a lot of veterans do is that, and so instead of knowing that eventually you're going to need to get on the other side of that ice if you want to live, then what people do is suddenly they'll look around and see that someone else is trapped under the ice. So like, hey, misery loves company. Let's go over and let's be together trapped under the ice. And this is all the dysfunctional veteran stuff and these t-shirts that like just embrace the fact that like, I'm dysfunctional, don't talk to me, whatever it is, like having a chip on your shoulder about that you went to war and that you're having issues. And then instead of trying to perfect ourselves and, work through that stuff and then become a more complete person, then you just want to wallow in it, and you want to wallow in it with somebody else. Well, guess what? You're both still trapped under the ice. So now you're just two dudes with no traction, or two people with no traction, and you're still just punching the ice. So then I thought, well, what does it take to get you out of it? Well, someone's got to break through from the top. The effort that someone can take to break through from the top of the ice and pull you out, then we have this assumption, like, so there's the pride, I don't need the help or whatever it is. And then the prejudice is like, oh, it's my mom on the other side of that ice. Well, I'll only really hear it if it comes from a veteran. Like, my mom could very easily break through the ice, but I'm only comfortable with it if it's a veteran that's breaking through the ice. And that's stupid. Because if you're above the ice, you don't have your fight or flight going crazy. You have your wits about you. You're not running on a fuse that's about to burn out. And so you need to just move out of the way, get yourself out of the way, and let the person break through the ice for you and pull you up. And so I talked to my mom, and I apologized to her. I told her what was going on and those feelings that I had. And it was funny, like I reassured her when she came over to talk to me. I'm like, Mom, just so you know, like I'm not going to commit suicide or anything like that, okay? And she kind of gave me a look of like, yeah, I didn't think you were going to. But it's like, it's important to recognize, why does it need to get to that point? Why would you stay under the ice and kind of fight something that eventually is going to wear you out? I mean, if at some point, and that's why you see people like, they may just give up. Either they're too prideful or they're too prejudiced to get out of the way and let someone break through the ice for them and help them up. So they just eventually, reserve themselves to a reality of I'm going to be under the ice forever until I die, and I might just sink down to the bottom and at least get this over with quickly. So a lot of thoughts there. I, I appreciate the reach out that people have done and looking out for me. I I think it's great, and I'm looking forward to going and talk to somebody. I'm really looking forward to some of the guys that have reached out, like from my platoon, and I'm gonna call and try and get a hold of all the guys that were in Chance's truck when he got killed, and talk to him about that, because I had a really neat gift given to me while I was running, and I was praying while I was running, and the thought was, when Chance got hit, he got hit immediately, and his finger was stuck on the trigger of his 240 Golf machine gun, and he was just like spraying, and one of the guys that was in the truck was like, "Hey, Chance, over there, shoot over there or whatever," and then realized that he was dead. So they pulled him down, and the corpsman happened to be in that vehicle. They pulled him down from the turret, started working on him, and then the driver hopped up and got into the turret and started shooting. And I had this feeling of like this peace in my heart of like, yeah, Chance was out of the fight physically, but I wonder if I talked to people the Marines that were in that firefight, like I know of specifically an example where that we have what's called a quick reaction force. So there's a bunch of gun trucks, and then there's a truck that's just full of about 4 to 5 Marines that, if need be, they can jump out and get off onto the terrain on the side of the road and maneuver on the enemy and like flank the enemy. And these guys had jumped out and were flanking the enemy, and they told me about a rocket propelled grenade that they had shot at them, and it impacted and flew, like bounced off the ground, ricocheted, and like flew over their heads. And I just had this feeling, because Chance was wearing the St. Christopher medal when he died, and I had this feeling while I was praying, and this is a big thank you to Julia, who said, "Why don't you just ask Chance? Why don't you just talk to him?" And Father Keith, who I've been talking to, working me through I had some issues previously about, praying to saints and if that was okay and why, nonetheless. And I just felt like, yeah, Chance wasn't like running with like gunning down the machine gun, but the second that it was lights out, like, dude turned into a guardian angel and was able to influence that firefight in a completely different way that none of the other Marines were capable of doing. So, and the thunder rolls. Long video. I feel like I probably left you guys hanging on some despair. And when I said that was my penance, like, I view penance as a very good thing. Like, having not been there for Chance, that my penance is to be there for other people. Like, that is what I want to do. I feel at peace when I can be there for other people. And that's a gift that I believe is from God, that penance that we feel. So I want you guys to know that I'm in a good space, but thanks to all of you who reached out. If there is a blemish on me, we're going to work on it and get it cleaned up, because that's what we're all here to do. So remember, don't let the pride and prejudice get in the way of perfecting yourself. And if you feel trapped under the ice, get out of the way. Let somebody break through. It doesn't matter who it is. Just be willing to listen. So I'm going to do my 22 push-ups. Represent Team RWB. Have a good night.